3-in-a-row board games are older than the Roman Empire. We found game grids carved into roofing tiles in ancient Egypt, dating back to 1300 BC, and chalked across the streets of Rome from the 1st century BC. Yet, despite lasting for millennia, players eventually outgrow it. This ancient puzzle carries a fatal flaw that renders it unusable for competitive adults. It is a solved game. If both players execute the optimal strategy, the match ends in a forced draw every single time, a result traditionally known as a cat's game. Against a perfect opponent, your chance of victory is exactly 0. The only way to win is to wait for the other person to make a mistake. So why have elite computer scientists, mathematicians, and behavioral psychologists spent decades analyzing a game designed for children? Because a rigid, heavily constrained environment is highly valuable. This game provided a controlled sandbox for testing early artificial intelligence and complex combinatorics. When you look at an empty 3x3 grid, it seems like there are 9 possible starting moves, but mathematicians analyze this through state space complexity, mapping out every possible board configuration while accounting for rotational symmetry. Rotational symmetry collapses the 9 squares into 3 distinct starting choices: a corner, edge, or center. In 1972, researchers mapped this finite logic. To play perfectly, execute the first available option, win if possible, block your opponent, or create a fork, leaving 2 winning paths. This programmable logic made it an ideal tool for early computing. In 1952, the EDSAC computer used these rules to play flawless, unbeatable matches against human opponents. By the 1970s, this logic structure was even transferred to animals. Using operant conditioning, chickens were trained in arcade cabinets to peck optimal responses based on a hidden computer prompt, playing perfectly against paying customers. The EDSAC and the chickens weren't actually learning a game. They were executing a mathematical map that guaranteed survival in a closed system. To see how this logic functions outside of a grid, consider a math puzzle called Number Scrabble. Here are the rules. 2 players take turns selecting a single digit between 1 and 9. Once a number is picked, it is removed from the pool. The goal is to be the first person to collect exactly 3 numbers that sum to 15. Mastering this requires arranging digits into a magic square, where every row, column, and diagonal adds up to 15. If you pick 8, 3, and 4 to hit 15, you draw a straight line across the top. The puzzle and game are identical. Mathematicians call this isomorphism. It describes a scenario where 2 systems with different surface rules share the same underlying mathematical skeleton. The game functions as an abstract mathematical incidence geometry, a ghost structure that hides inside words, numbers, and puzzles. Once mathematicians proved the game was an abstract structure, they began mutating its dimensions to escape the forced draw. The math expanded into higher dimensions. Researchers developed a 4x4x4 spatial lattice called cubic, and later quantum tic-tac-toe, which allows players to place moves in a state of superposition. In 1983, the iconic film War Games used this exact sense of futility as a metaphor for global thermonuclear war. It highlights a core tenet of game theory. In a perfectly balanced, symmetrical system, if rational actors use the most effective strategies possible, full engagement guarantees mutual destruction. The optimal move in a futile game is not to play, but deconstructing why it is futile provides the tools needed to build advanced AI and navigate the high-stakes global systems that actually govern our world.